Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in this morning. Let's just double check the audio and please let us know if you can hear us loud and clear. We'll be using the question panel throughout the webinar. This panel is on the right side of your screen. And throughout this panel, you can let us know all of your questions and all issues that you may have through the webinar, through the panel. So please, first, let's check the audio. Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, so the audio is loud and clear. And now let's just wait a couple of minutes for everyone to join in, and then we'll be starting the webinar in about 2 minutes. This is a webinar for the world best performing biometrics for SUPREMA, and we just want to let you know that we have all these products in stock here at AppCom. So any of the products that you may need and you may see under the webinar, please let us know and we'll be happy to send you a quote throughout your sales representative. All right. So I think now it will be a good time to start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, The World Best Performing Biometrics by SUPREMA. And a quick reminder that this webinar will be recorded and sent to your email right after the webinar. I would like to welcome Devon Felice from SUPREMA, who will be our presenters for today's webinar. Please send us all of your questions during the webinar, and we'll be using the question panel that I just told you that is on the right side of your screen to answer all of them. At the end of the webinar, we'll be having a Q&A panel to answer all of these questions. So for those of you just joining in, welcome. Mr. Devon, we're ready to start.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the introduction, Victor. And thank you, EPCOM, for letting me join and tell us a little bit, tell your customers a little bit about SUPREMA. So how I'm going to run the presentation today is SUPREMA does offer a large selection of solutions, and I will try and stay focused on the biometric aspect of it, since that is one of our definitive differentiators. If there are any further questions about our other solutions, which I'll touch upon, feel free to reach out to myself and EPCOM with those questions. All right. So I'm going to go provide a quick introduction to who is SUPREMA, so you know where we're coming from, at which point I will dive into the products and technology. I will probably skip ahead through the architectural slides and keep it focused on more of an application scenario. And like I said, if we want to get a little deeper into some of these things, we can at a later date. SUPREMA has been around for approximately 23 years, founded in 2000. At last count, we have feet on the streets in approaching 130 countries. And they did a quick survey last year, and they estimated about 15 million systems installed globally since they were founded. So it's a very well-established global company. And our focus is really on all the smart technology based around the door, whether it's access control or biometrics, but the goal is to provide a high quality, seamless experience, whether you're installing our products or using it as a customer. And from a recognition perspective, this is always nice to point out that one of our biometrics that we are known for is our fingerprint reader. And based on the performance of our fingerprint reader technology and our algorithms that we use, being fast, you read the harder to read fingerprints better than anyone I'm aware of, and security. So Samsung has been using our fingerprint reader technology in their devices since 2017. So what do we offer at SUPREMA? Actually, I should step back 1 second. As a side note, in today's world, I should definitely mention this. All of our products are made in South Korea. If you're in the US, we are NDA compliant, and all of the products I'll be talking about today are in stock and available. If Epcom doesn't have it in their hub, they can get it pretty quickly from one of our distributors, or it's 7 days out of Korea. So feel comfortable knowing that whatever you see today, you can get. So from a solution perspective, we have access control pieces. I would say globally, 50% of our business is around time and attendance devices. All of our newest devices support mobile credentials. We have traditional as well as smart readers that we provide. All the traditional access control solution sets that you need, like panels and I/O boards. We have one primary software component that manages all of our devices in whichever way you've implemented them. And then we have some of the peripherals involved. As a quick snapshot, over the past few years, we've been receiving a lot of awards globally for whether you're in Forbes Asia Top 200 or Deloitte's Fast Technology 500 or Quality of Biometrics at ISC Brazil. We're becoming we have been very well known by all the leading articles and entities in the world who grade companies on these types of things, from security to biometrics. So let's dive into the specific products. One of the exciting things about what we offer at SUPREMA is we have a lot of choices for our customers, whether it's facial recognition, which I'll focus on, as well as the fingerprint options. We have traditional access control pieces, the RFID readers, and most of our devices supports multiple mobile or multiple types of credentials. And this is key in, as most systems out there, every customer is a little different. And we would like to make it as easy and flexible for our integrators to implement our systems. And then whether you are doing a single door at a single location, or running, or you're outputting like a project we're working on right now is potentially 3,500 facial biometric readers going out global. So for one customer. So whether it's small or large, we do have a nice selection for you. Let's dive into the fingerprint first, and then we'll hit facial biometrics second. So there are a number of entities out there that grade biometrics, and the FBI is one of them. And they grade the quality of the way we read our fingerprints and results of our fingerprint readers, and they continually give us highest certifications for that. We have also run quite a few tests against all the fingerprint biometrics we can get our hands on to see how we perform and make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing within our company and keeping our technology up front. And we have noticed that fingerprints are really hard to read, and there's different situations that make them even more hard to read, like super dry fingerprints. As you get older, they tend to thin, and then very petite fingerprints are challenging to read. So in a lot of those hard to read environments, we are just performing way better than our competition, which we're proud of, obviously. And we do it with a combination of using multiple light sources within our readers, as well as high DPI imagers, and then fast processors. And we actually use AI now as the analytical tool within our devices to do that. So which means when you are looking at fingerprint readers, they've kind of gotten a bad rap over the years. And I've seen it as well as, obviously, as a experienced person in this industry, where it could take multiple reads, many seconds to read fingerprints, and they've just been very, very challenging for many people, to the fact where they don't actually want to use them or anything to do with fingerprint readers. Well, we typically read in about half a second on our newest products, maybe a tenth of a second longer with older processors, but we usually read fast and we read accurate. So one of the measurements for biometrics that they use is false acceptance rate. So when we take a biometric on a fingerprint, we turn it into essentially a template of dots, and then we match those dots to other templates of dots to see who's at the door. And it used to be the chances of accidentally having a similar set of dots to or template to somebody else, it's pretty low, like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 5,000. So if you have a big organization, there's a good chance you may have a similar template to somebody else. That's called a false acceptance rate. So the resolution and the quality of our readers is to the point where our false acceptance rate is about 1 in 10 million. So definitely an improvement over a lot of other technologies out there, and then what we're seeing over time. And I'm not really paying attention to the questions. So if questions come through, please go ahead and Victor, if you could pop in and let me know, that'd be great.
Yes, at the moment we don't have any question, but at the end, if we have a question, we can answer it at the question panel.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So if you were to ever go to the SUPREMA website, you may see a very large selection of fingerprint readers. As a global company with regional needs, we tend to have a lot of options, which is great. So part of my role is to focus on the products that sell mostly today, and mostly in the US is what I'm going to be talking about. So I've actually broken our fingerprint devices into 2 sections, security and time and attendance. I will skip the time and attendance on the next slide, but stay focused on the security here. So the right-hand section here is outdoor rated and the left is indoor. That's the big differentiator there. But I will focus on the BioEntry W2 is really a good example of, actually the BioLite as well, actually, are good examples of our latest technology and the mindset of SUPREMA. So if you look at the W2, it is a fingerprint reader, of course, but it is also a dual frequency card reader. By default, we read EM and DESFire cards, which are more globally accepted, but with a upgrade model, you can get them to read HID credentials as well. We just have to give HID a royalty. So we don't have it in the standard. And just so you know, in my world, previously before SUPREMA, most times I had to buy a biometric reader, I had to buy the card reader separate, right? So now it's embedded. In addition, the device supports mobile credentials from SUPREMA, whether it's Android or iPhone, we're good. And then this particular one is an outdoor and vandal resistant device. In addition, it has weakened and RS-45 output. This means I can put my biometry W2 on really anybody's access control panel. So we're very agnostic when it comes to working with access control systems. Of course, there's some power options there. And then the smart controller is a differentiator with us as well. If you choose to use SUPREMA's BioStar 2 software for access control versus somebody else's, the control panel is built into the reader itself. So I don't actually even need a panel for using our software. This makes it for a very easy and convenient access control system. But go ahead and feel free to put me on other people's panels. I am happy either way. And the BioLite is very similar in many functions, except for it also has that keypad on it. It's a little bit more universal. So those are one of our top 2 sellers in the US. The P2 has a little bit less feature. It's slightly older, but it's an indoor unit, more cost effective, and we see it going into data centers a lot. So, and on IT classes quite a bit as well. So, I'm thinking anything else for that. Nope, that's not it. I will say that if you're thinking about projects for fingerprint readers, though we are really fast, you'll typically see fingerprints best suited for low or medium throughput entry points. The P2 is great in an IT closet I rarely access, but I want higher security. The W2 is good on your standard door, but if you're talking about turnstiles, probably not the best move, just because you have to go in and touch it and there's a delay there. Like I said, I'm gonna skip the time and attendance. Just want you to be aware that we are heavy into biometrics in lieu of the ancient hand geometry readers. We do a lot of replacements of those. Just a fantastic, reasonably priced device to go on someone else's time and attendance system. All right, with that said, I'm gonna dive into facial biometrics. Our facial biometrics is considered a high security technology. Our false acceptance rate is somewhere in the world of 1 in 10 billion. So the odds of looking like somebody else is, per our technology, is very low. But what's really selling on our facial biometrics is simply the fact that it's contactless and it's so easy to get through a space. And we use things like the ability to enroll users is super easy. We can do things like mask detection if you're in an area that still requires that. But at the end of the day, it's just fast and easy access, which really attracts people to our product. Now, as great as facial biometrics is, I've always wondered why, well, some people wonder why facial biometrics isn't more commonly sold. Now, price point has been definitely one of them, and price point has gone down significantly over the years. And we just released a new product that's even a little bit better, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the major technology challenge with facial biometrics has always been lighting. For example, if you were to try and put other people's facial biometrics in a space like a lobby that's big, you know, the big windows, marble reflection, or put them outdoors with the sun coming in, they almost universally don't work. You had to really put them in places where you had very tight control over the lux levels. In addition, darker skins tend not to reflect white light very well. So most facial biometrics or recognition systems struggle with that as well. So what does SUPREMA do that sets us apart? Well, our fusion matching is the big piece. So what we do is we have two cameras on our devices. One is a white light camera, and one is an IR camera. We simultaneously take those images and merge them in the background, and that's what we use as our template source. So we just don't have the lighting issues that have plagued this particular kind of technology. So our devices are outdoor rated. We work pretty much everywhere I've put them so far. I'm sure we can probably find a place where the sun is hitting them directly, but so far they've been working extremely well in all those challenging environments.
A quick
smaller
question.
issue, yes, sir.
Mr. Devon, quick question. Talking about the biometrics, it's from Mr. Miller, and he's asking us, what are the IP or IK rating about, talking about the biometrics?
Yeah, so I don't I have to look up the actual spec. There is an IK rating on our facial biometrics, which I'll show you in a second, but it's low and it's a bit higher on that W2 fingerprint reader. But I need you to actually, there is an IK rating at least on those.
Great. And one last question from Mr. Fernandez. He's asking us about the best way to clean the fingerprint scanner that you just talked about.
That's a good question. I don't really answer that. Most of our customers just use a little bit of water and a little soap, but I haven't actually had a recommendation on that. It is a glass surface. It's like the glass surface you get on an iPhone, whatever they call that monkey glass, that ultra dense glass. But I don't have a great answer. There's many ways to wipe it down. Glass cleaner would probably be just fine.
All right. Thank you. We can then continue. That was the last question.
Okay. All right. So a small challenge with facial biometrics is biometrics for facial can actually change a little bit. With fingerprint, they can get damaged or worn, With iris, which is the third kind of lower population of iris biometrics, they can get damaged over time as well. But overall, finger and iris do not change. Your face can actually change a little bit over time. So one of the things that we've also included, since we do have a pretty robust AI running in the background, is as your facial biometric possibly changes over time, when we compare your template and we see that your biometric template starting to drift, we will actually update your template. So 9 months down the road, you don't start getting, if you had a lot of changes in your face, you don't start getting some accidental denials. The other aspect of biometrics, which has been extremely challenging for those that enrolled it, and it depends on the size of the customer, obviously. 5 people is not that hard to enroll 5 people, but if you're talking about thousands, it can be challenging, is enrollment. So with the fingerprint reader, I have a little USB device you can plug into a computer and enroll from that, or you can enroll from any one of our devices in the field. I don't have an iris reader, but they do require a specific device to read your iris and take that image. But with facial biometrics, I have extreme flexibility. So I can log into my software and you can stand in front of one of our devices and I can capture your image that way. Or I can walk up to one of our facial biometrics out in the field with you standing next to me and enroll you while standing next to our device. I can log into it as an admin and just enroll you real quick out in the field. Or you can send me a selfie from your phone or from wherever, and I, as an admin, can take a minute, grab that image you just sent me, and then import it and make that your starting profile image. And then, so you don't have to be there at all. Or the fourth way is when I set up the system, I have the ability to turn on a license where I can actually email all the employees, I guess you would say, in the system. If I have that email address imported, a 24-hour secure link which they can click on from their smartphone and then enroll themselves remotely. So instead of sending me a selfie, 1,000 selfies, which can be a little challenging time-wise, I can simply just do a blast out to everybody that needs to use the system, and they can enroll themselves wherever they may be in the world. So more than ever, we have made biometrics super easy to use. In addition, fingerprint readers is going to be, depending on the technology company you use, on the on some of the more poor quality ones, maybe 15% of the population you can't enroll on a fingerprint reader. With our product, it's about 5% or less. You simply just cannot enroll their fingers. Their fingers just aren't, something wrong with their fingerprints. Iris biometrics has the same issue. There's a certain percentage of people you can't enroll. With facial biometrics, there's nobody you can't enroll. You definitely know you can enroll them. All right. And the last thing I'll mention is it is fast. If you get a minute, feel free to swing by the SUPREMAinc.com website. You'll see some videos. They read in less than half a second. So if you're walking, it'll pick you up from about 5 feet away. At about 4 feet away to 3 feet away, it'll recognize you and you just walk on through. Worst case scenario, you have to slow your walk just a hair while you face it, and then you're in the door. In addition, from a participation perspective, facial biometrics, at least ours, is by far the least intrusive and requires the least amount of effort to participate. Meaning I generally have to look in the right direction of our device and it'll get you. With the fingerprint reader, you gotta have your hands free and stick a finger in there, of course. It has to be the right finger. Iris, you gotta get in there a little bit and pause as well. Cards, you gotta pull out your cards. I mean, so essentially it is by far the fastest and easiest way to get in a building. Okay. or gate for that matter. Because of our range, people are definitely implementing this at gates as well. So there's two products I'm going to talk about, the FaceStation F2 and the BioStation 3. The FaceStation F2 has been out for a little bit longer, about a year and a half, 2 years. The BioStation 3 we launched in October. So I got to actually update this. It's fully launched. So the F2 is our Swiss Army knife of facial biometrics. It is about the size of a large Android tablet. The picture you see here is an option. It has a fingerprint reader also. You can get it without that fingerprint piece, and it looks just like the top section, like the BioStation 3 actually. So the F2 also comes with a thermal camera option. It comes with a QR code reader option, as well as the fingerprint biometric option, or you can get it just as is. Also in the picture, you can see the two cameras on there, the right and left, center spaced. Okay, there's some commonalities between them. Of course, they both do facial biometrics. They both read credentials, hard cards, so EM and DESFire by default, or the HID series with an upgrade. They both support mobile credentials. They both have a touch screen, so you can do a keypad and pen. They both are outdoor rated and do have a IK rating to them. They both have your standard outputs, WeGin and RS-45 to put on anybody's access control panel. But again, if you use the BioStar 2 software from SUPREMA, which is our access control platform, then you don't need a panel. The control panel is built into the unit themselves, and all the relays and contacts to manage door are built into it, if you wish to use it. What we bring to the table with the BioStation 3 is size is one of them. It's about the size of a larger iPhone, if you have one of those, while the F2 is a bit more like a tablet. So the BioStation 3 is a little bit more ideal to go next to a door just based on size alone. In addition, though the F2 is very reasonably priced, the BioStation 3 is even 30% less than the F2. You have to get your pricing from Epcom. No. But let's just say that we are down getting close to the space of our higher-end fingerprint readers with the BioStation 3. In addition, with the BioStation 3, we have introduced a completely new feature, which is it is now SIP compliant. So if you want to put this as a phone endpoint on a commercial building, you can now do that. And the standard SIP protocol from us will support both video and audio. And if that customer's phone system does support SIP and video, then that means you can get audio and video to either apps or get a phone call to your phone, hit a button, and release the door remotely. So a true video intercom capabilities, in addition to all the other features built into it. So the ROI on the BioStation 3 becomes just absolutely unquestionable once you want to add either video intercom. I mean, it's as good as it is already, but since you add the video intercom piece, it becomes way more cost effective to get the BioStation 3, add the benefits of facial biometrics all on that device. Then we do have two versions of the BioStation 3, the standard and then the advanced. The advanced version also adds 3 new features. In addition to reading all the HID credentials in the advanced version, it also has Wi-Fi for communication, and as well it is a PoE device. So these are the two top ones selling today. We do have some older ones on our website, but I tend not to mention those. There's no reason to get those at this point. All right, so I am done talking about the facial biometrics. Hopefully we get some interest on that. The BioStation 3, we are doing extremely well with. Some folks still like to use the FaceStation F2 for turnstile space and things like that, simply because of the larger screen. They can see themselves from farther away as they approach the device. But overall, the BioStation 3 will be a significant aspect of our business moving forward. So team, I'm going to actually skip ahead and, oops, did not mean to do that, sorry guys. I'm going to skip through the access control pieces. I will just mention we have access control panels, all the devices that go with it, a full suite of readers, mobile credentials to go with most of the devices I talked about today. And then I will pause here. One of the advantages I hope you've seen with us is we try to put as much technology in all of our high quality devices so that whether you're an installer or an end user, you have the flexibility to use and maximize that device, whether it's using mobile credentials or physical cards or the biometric or QR codes. We do support a lot of those devices, a lot of those things.
Hello, Mr. Devan. And before we move on, we have two quick questions. And one is for Mr. Reese, talking about the fingerprints. And he's asking us about what happens to people who have their fingerprints badly damaged.
Yeah, that definitely falls into that 5% that we just can't read. There's really no way around that I'm aware of. Some folks have tried to do like read underneath the fingerprint readers. We do that to some degree with the different light sources we use, which is why we're able to reduce that can't read realm down. In situations where I've had trouble reading fingerprints, we end up trying them all until we find one that works. We can also reduce the quality requirement for specific people so that we can get not quite as secure, so it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But we can get most people enrolled for sure. But there are just some people that have damaged all their fingerprints and they just don't read. And I definitely want to never say we can read everybody's fingerprints. That's just not a thing for anybody.
Thank you. And I think this is a great scenario for face recognition too. So you can use that solution also.
Oh, 100%. It's also why we go through all the effort in putting flexibility. So we do have sites where we can't read the fingerprints, and that 1 or 2%, they have cards. That works for them. So it depends on what they need.
Thank you. Okay. Great. And one last question is from Mr. Noel, and he's asking us, he's asking if the BioEntry W2 requires a panel or if it's not requires a panel.
So it depends. So we have our own access control software, which is what I have the screen stopped on here. If you are using our software, then no, you do not need a panel. The control panel is built into the W2. If you're using somebody else's, like I always see myself being installed on a Genetec, Linnell, Software House, S2. There's a lot of platforms out there. Using someone else's access control system, then yes, you would have to use their panel. So the answer is it depends.
Thank you, Mr. Down. Okay, so now we continue, and just a quick reminder that all of these solutions, AFCOM is the distributor. So if you have any interest in any of the panels or products that you're seeing on the presentation, you can contact your sales representative, and he'll be happy to send you a quote directly. So now we're ready to continue.
Okay, thank you. And just to point out, yes, we do have an access control panel, so that might be where that conversation question came from. But I actually don't sell a lot of our panels. I almost always use them in a retrofit scenario where all the cables are run back, and we use existing readers, or I replace the readers and use the same cables. But as a rule of thumb, I actually don't really use a lot of our access control panels, because even our readers have the option of getting a control panel built into the reader itself. We call this a distributed system. Okay. So I do need to mention the software. I know this is primarily on biometrics, but this is a key aspect of it. So the BioStar 2 software is used for, has 3 purposes. The first purpose is to manage the biometrics and usually enrollment as well. And if you're using our software for purely managing biometrics, but let's say using somebody else's access control platform, then the software is free, always. So there's no charge for our software. It's simply used for enrolling the biometrics, and that's it. When you start to managing doors from an access control perspective, then there's some licensing involved depending on how many doors you need and features you need. And then same with the time and attendance. The first 100 employees are free, and then after that, there's some licensing components if you're using us for time and attendance. So those are three primary purposes. The BioStar 2 is currently an on-prem workstation software, but it is managed through web browser, or an app for that matter. So you can really access it from anywhere, from any computer, but the actual server will be usually on premise somewhere. Right. All right. I'm going to skip a little bit through the architectural slides. I will pause here just to point out that most folks that use our software, an access control piece, use our readers with a built-in controller or our biometrics with the built-in controller, and do not typically use a panel. To answer that one question. But again, if you were to replace this BioStar 2 server software with somebody else's, then you will need their access control panel. All right. As we are mostly talking about biometrics in this particular presentation, I will pause here before we wrap up. I've been on board now with SUPREMA for about 5 months, and I put together a quick list of where I've been seeing us being installed real time. And I need to add one here, which I'll mention in a second. So we see a lot of time and attendance, time clock points for the fingerprint biometrics. I've seen us go into quite a few prisons, data centers, and police stations. Really anywhere that you don't have super high throughput, but you want to up the security at a specific location, like an IT closet or evidence room where for evidence, you want to up the, or like a armory, things like that for law enforcement, then it's a great tool for upping security. I've also seen a lot of people use it as a way of not having to use credentials. For your smaller systems, that's pretty much why they do it. They don't want to have to manage cards. And this blends over into healthcare, airports, banking. I'm working on a large healthcare system right now where it's one of our major cities where hopefully we'll get about 40 pharmaceutical pharmacies within that healthcare system. So, and it's going to be 4 or 5 fingerprint readers per pharmacy. The facial biometrics tends to fall into 2 buckets. It's going to be either high throughput or contactless, easy throughput. So in terms of high throughput, we're talking about turnstiles is perfect, absolutely perfect for that. Manufacturing, I see it a lot where you have shift changes and people are trying to come in volume at one time. You have a couple thousand people coming in, we can make that easy. And then we get into the seamless contactless, like you're a little bit higher in lobbies, where you want to get easy throughput. But I'm also doing things like gyms. Gym memberships, I've done some HOAs, if you're familiar with those kinds of organizations where they're just quick and easy to get through, they don't have to manage cards. But another high demand area is, this has been coming up quite a bit recently, it has been higher education, and specifically athletics. Whether it's professional or in higher education, there's a definitive need to secure those locker rooms or the workout areas. And but they don't typically have cards on them, or it's very hard to have credentials on them. And fingerprint is just not very viable if you are a football player or a gymnast, and then and the other biometrics just aren't as competitive. So think in terms of where you don't have a card or hard to get a hold of, you need high throughput, or something where you don't want to touch something. That's where the facial biometrics really shines. So with that said, it's kind of hard to do a demonstration. Here's a quick snapshot on the right of our F2 being used on a turnstile with actually a thermal camera on it. But with that said, I am open for questions. I have wrapped up the discussion presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Devon. And thank you for your time this morning and the great information that you shared with us about the biometrics from SUPREMA. And let's have a quick Q&A for everyone who may have a question about the biometrics or the facial recognition solution that we just presented. And a quick reminder that the webinar is being recorded and we'll be sending you the presentation as well as the video recording at the end of the webinar to your email. So let's just wait a couple of minutes. If anyone may have a question, you can send it through the question panel, and this is on the right side of your screen. So let's wait a couple of minutes. If not, we'll be ending this session. And then any question that you may have, we have our engineering team at the moment, Mr. Miguel Ruiz. He is part of the webinar, and he is the engineer for AppCom. So he will be, if you have any project coming up or any question about installation, he will be happy to answer all of your questions. So it seems that we may not have any other question, Mr. Devon. So we thank you for your time this morning, and we hope to see you pretty soon for another session next year, so we can have more information about the new products of SUPREMA for the new year.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me on, Epcom and Victor. You guys have a wonderful holiday, okay?
You too. Have a great holiday season. Mr. Miguel, thank you so much for your time. Jaime, thank you so much. And thank you everyone who joined in this morning. And we'll invite you to check our AppCom channel. We have all the recordings for the videos of the webinars. And also we invite you to keep checking our AppCom website for new dates for webinars that we post daily. So thank you everyone and have a great day.
Yeah.